Sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who doesn't need to speak. How do you spot someone trained to disappear in plain sight? What if you were the one who pulled them into the light? Let us know in the comments section below. She stared at the reflection in the dusty rearview mirror, not to check her makeup. She hadn't worn any in weeks, but to study the eyes that stared back. Cold, alert, and patient. Kishele Bosh didn't blink. She hadn't in years, not when it counted. Beneath her hoodie, her posture was relaxed, but everything inside her was calculated. Her hands rested softly on the wheel of the nondescript gray Toyota, but every nerve ending buzzed with awareness. She wasn't supposed to be here, on this street, in this town, in this state. Not officially. That's how she liked it. In the duffel bag on the passenger seat, 2 burner phones, a slim laptop patched with fingerprint smudges, and a folder sealed tight with a strip of red tape marked classified. The names inside that file weren't supposed to exist, not in any database, not in any conversation. They were ghosts. Until someone started trying to make them real again. She had 72 hours. That's how long the leak had been running wild. Whoever had the intel wasn't trying to sell it yet, but the chatter on the dark net suggested they were preparing a drop. Kishele's job was simple. Find the source, kill the story, disappear again. But then came the lights. Red and blue in her rear view. Slow blink. Measured. Predatory. Her eyes didn't flinch. She took a breath that didn't tremble and pulled over, just as she'd been trained to do 100 times in simulations and maybe a dozen times in real life. She wasn't afraid. Not of men with badges. She'd handled worse than state troopers. But this time there was a problem. The town was small and she was alone, and if the wrong person opened that folder, her mission wasn't the only thing that would implode. She rolled the window down just enough. The cop approached like he knew something. Tall, white, square-jawed, early 40s, maybe ex-military by the way his boots hit the pavement like they wanted it to submit. He didn't say anything at first. Just looked. "License and registration?" he said, finally. She handed them over, keeping her eyes forward. "Is there a problem, officer?" He didn't answer, just stared at the name. Kiana Bell. The fake ID passed multiple scans, matched the plates, matched the insurance. It was perfect. Unless he was fishing. Or worse, unless someone had tipped him. "You from around here?" "No, sir, just passing through." "Where from?" "Married." "Where to?" She gave a little smile. "North Carolina, visiting family." He looked at her hands, then at her duffel. "What's in the bag?" She followed his gaze. "Just clothes. I've been on the road." He didn't ask her to open it, not yet. But his eyes lingered too long. Kishele had memorized the routes. She'd picked this road for its blind spots, not for its traffic cameras. But somehow, here he was. She didn't believe in coincidences, not in her line of work. The second officer arrived, younger, nervous, eyes darting between her and his partner. Kishele recognized the look. The rookie wasn't sure if this was a textbook stop or something else. Maybe he'd even sensed something was off. Then came the request. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle." She paused just long enough to feel the danger tighten around her ribs. She could say no, could flash a badge that would make this all go away. But flashing her CIA credentials would burn the entire operation. No one outside the agency was supposed to know Kishele Bosh existed, not even the police. She stepped out. Her boots hit the gravel softly. Not a sound betrayed her. The older officer was already circling the car. "You mind opening the bag?" he said. She smiled, not with her mouth, but with her silence. "I do mind, actually. Are you detaining me?" He didn't answer, just reached for the zipper. And that's when she moved. Not with violence, not yet. She stepped forward slow and even, I strongly advise you not to touch that bag, officer. That got his attention. So did the rookie's hand drifting toward his holster. Kishele sighed. Let me make a call. No calls, the older one snapped. You're being uncooperative. And being careful. There's a difference. You got attitude. I'll give you that, he said, stepping closer. But that won't help you tonight. He reached for his cuffs. The rookie hesitated. Kishele didn't. She reached into her jacket, slow, precise, pulling out the matte black wallet with a single silver crest in the center. The older cop froze. She flipped it open. His face twisted in confusion. Central Intelligence Agency, she said calmly. You're interfering with an active federal operation. Call your superior. Tell them you've just detained a black site asset. The rookie paled. Sir, maybe we should... But the older cop didn't let up. Anybody can print a badge, he said. I thought that might be your response. That's when the black SUV pulled up behind them. Unmarked, silent. Doors opened. 3 people stepped out. Suits. No words. Just presence. One of them handed a sealed document to the older officer. He opened it. His face drained. Release her, said one of the agents. A woman, sharp eyes, short hair, clipped, tone. The cuffs never made it onto her wrists. Kishele didn't move. Didn't blink. Just watched. The rookie looked away, embarrassed, maybe even ashamed. The older one stiffened, angry and humiliated. She didn't identify herself. She didn't need to, the woman in the suit said. You made the mistake of asking the wrong questions. As the agents ushered Kishele toward the SUV, the woman leaned in. You're compromised. The leak's local. We need to reroute now. Kishele nodded once. No questions. Only calculations. She was back in the shadows before the cops even realized she'd vanished. And the mission was just getting started. The precinct smelled like old coffee, sweat, and paper. Years of bureaucracy baked into cheap tile and flickering fluorescence. Lieutenant Douglas Kane didn't mind the staleness. He thrived in it. This was where power didn't shout, it whispered. He leaned back in his chair, swirling lukewarm black coffee as the surveillance footage played silently on his monitor. The street-level body cam from Officer Brent Walker's recent traffic stop. The woman, the one with the calm eyes and steel in her spine, was centered in frame. He watched her posture, her breath, her precision. Her name wasn't Kiana Bell, not even close. He narrowed his eyes as the SUV pulled up in the footage. Federal, not FBI. No markings, no hesitation. The woman in the center, the one with the command presence, had handed over sealed orders. And Walker had crumbled. Kane's lips curled into something between amusement and calculation. He clicked pause and leaned forward. The CIA was moving assets through his town without notice. That made them a threat. Or a tool. He hadn't decided yet. A knock interrupted the stillness. Officer Mike Reynolds stepped in, nervous as ever. Lieutenant, just got the final report from the Walker incident. Internal wants to know if they should escalate. Escalate? Kane scoffed. Over what? A stop that didn't turn up anything? Mike hesitated. She flashed federal credentials. We weren't informed. You think they inform us every time one of their ghosts rolls through town? That's not how DC works, kid. She was carrying something, Mike said, stepping closer. Walker saw it. That duffel bag. He swears there were documents, red tape. Kane didn't blink. And he let her go. She had backup. Big time. Kane stood, slow and smooth, as if the decision was made mid-rise. He circled his desk and stopped in front of Mike, who looked down the second he met the lieutenant's stare. You're new here, so let me give you a rule, Kane said. You don't poke the government unless you already know what's inside. Because if you're wrong, they don't just swat you down, they erase you. Mike shifted, uncomfortable. Sir, I just think... You think too much. Kane snapped, his voice clipped but low. "You did your job, now forget it." Mike nodded and turned to leave. "Wait." Mike froze. Kane moved to a locked drawer and opened it. Inside, beneath some old case files and a holstered sidearm, was a plain folder, gray, unmarked. He pulled it out and placed it on the desk. "Take this down to Archives, room B3. Ask for Jamie, no one else. Don't look inside. Got it?" Mike hesitated. "Yes, sir." He left without another word. Kane waited until the footsteps faded, then turned back to his monitor and pressed play. The screen flickered, Kishele's face, unreadable, calm. That wasn't learned in a classroom. That was battlefield training, agency-level control. He opened a secure line on his burner and tapped out a message. "Target confirmed. Contact made. Escalation pending. Recommend shadow pursuant until objective clarified." He didn't need to write the recipient's name. They already knew. The leak wasn't random. It had roots, and he was being paid well to water them. Across town, Kishele sat in a dim motel room, peeling the seal on the folder she'd recovered from the dead drop before the cops had interrupted. Her fingers moved methodically. No noise, no waste. The photos inside were grainy but clear enough. Surveillance shots from the precinct, internal logs, several officer profiles. One stood out, Lieutenant Douglas Kane, former National Guard, 2 overseas deployments, quietly left the service after a corruption probe in Qatar involving arms procurement. Cleared, but barely. 3 months later, he showed up in this town, suddenly promoted through the ranks. Kishele tapped her pen against his photo. She didn't trust coincidence. Her phone vibrated. Only one person had this number. Lawson. Kishele answered without a greeting. "It's dirty," Lawson said on the line, confirming what Kishele had suspected. "How deep?" "Enough to justify lethal force if compromised." "I don't need permission," Kishele said. "Just information." "You're getting both. The data breach you're chasing? It's not just Kane, he's the conduit. The source is bigger. Think higher, think network." Kishele nodded to herself. She knew what that meant. One mole didn't move intelligence like this. Not without structure. Which meant this wasn't just a mission anymore. It was containment. "I need eyes on him," she said. "You have them. We've got assets inbound to tap his internal comms, but if he suspects you're still here, he'll vanish." "I'm counting on it." She hung up and closed the file. She wasn't going to wait for Kane to make his move. She was going to provoke it. 2 hours later, Kane stepped out of his precinct, leather jacket slung over his shoulder, keys jangling casually in his hand. The parking lot was mostly empty, just past shift change. He didn't look around as he walked to his car, which is why he didn't see the woman leaning against the side of his vehicle until he was a few feet away. She was backlit by the lot's single flickering light, hood still up, posture relaxed. "Kishele." Kane stopped, hand still on the key fob. "You're either brave," he said, "or very, very stupid." She tilted her head. "Funny. I was about to say the same to you. What do you want?" "Information and a message." "Oh, I don't answer to you." "No," she said, pushing off the car. "You answer to whoever's buying your loyalty. I'm not here to stop that. I'm just here to warn you." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You gonna arrest me?" "I don't do arrests. I don't wear a badge. I don't fill out forms. I eliminate problems." His eyes darkened. "That a threat?" "It's a mirror." They stared at each other. For a moment the lot felt heavier, like the night itself was listening. Then she stepped back. "You know where to find me," she said, and walked into the shadows. Kane stood there for a long time. When he got in his car, he didn't drive home. He drove to the edge of town and made a call from a second phone hidden in the glove box. "She's still here," he said, "and she's not backing off." A voice on the other end replied, deep and unreadable. "Then we moved to phase 2. The lights at McLennan's diner flickered overhead, washing the booze in a dim yellow haze that clung to every surface like a memory that refused to fade. A cracked jukebox murmured softly in the corner, warbling an old soul tune nobody had asked for. The air smelled of grease, stale coffee, and secrets. Kishele sat in the back booth, where the wall gave her a view of every entrance and every shadow. Her fingertips traced the ceramic rim of the mug in front of her, but her mind was 1,000 miles away. The trap was already in motion. She had set it the moment she confronted Kane outside the precinct. Her presence in town was no longer a secret. It was bait. A waitress with tired eyes refilled her cup. Kishele gave a nod but said nothing. Her eyes never left the reflection in the diner's front window. A silver pickup passed once, then again 5 minutes later. Same dent on the back fender, different driver. She knew surveillance when she saw it. The plan was simple. Pressure Kane, expose the infrastructure. But the simplicity was a lie. Nothing about this mission was clean anymore. The leak wasn't just an external threat. It had local roots. Roots that were tangled around authority figures, city budgets, and people who'd rather die than be exposed. Kishele looked at the burner phone lying next to the salt shaker. It hadn't rung yet. Lawson was waiting for something. Confirmation, maybe. Or backup. Or a body. Kishele didn't blame her. Operations like this ended in 2 ways, silence or fire. The door creaked open. Not Kane, a different man. Stocky build, late 50s, face like a closed file. He scanned the room, then made his way toward her booth with too much confidence for a stranger. Kishele didn't move. He sat opposite her and slid a folded napkin across the table. "From Douglas?" he said. She opened it. A street address, no signature, just a line written in heavy black ink. "Let's talk where eyes can't follow." Kishele stared at the man, then at the napkin. He was sweating. Not the kind of sweat that came from heat, but pressure. "What's your role?" she asked. He shook his head once. "Messenger, nothing more." "That's not true. You're part of it. Maybe not at the top, but close enough to get your hands dirty." He swallowed. "I'm just trying to walk out of this." "Then walk now," she said. He stood, but before he left, he looked at her one last time. "You don't know who you're dealing with." She met his gaze, calm and steady. "Neither do they." He was gone. Kishele looked at the address again. Warehouse District, East Side, off-grid. No cameras, no pedestrians. Perfect place to end a life, or negotiate with one hanging in the balance. She paid the bill, left no tip, and walked out with the napkin folded in her palm. Half an hour later, the air in the warehouse was thick with dust and silence. She stood in the center, flanked by rusted crates and broken scaffolding. She wore black, head to toe, and the duffel bag was gone. Secured in a safe house 2 miles away, if Kane thought she'd bring evidence to this meeting, he was dumber than she'd hoped. Kane emerged from behind a shipping container, flanked by 2 men who didn't wear uniforms but moved like they'd carried guns for longer than they'd had birthdays. One of them wore a Bluetooth in his ear. The other had a scar down the side of his neck that looked like it had been made with glass. Kishele didn't blink. "You came alone," Kane said, stepping into the light. He didn't. "I'm not the one trespassing on sovereign soil," he said with a smirk. "You're the one selling it." He smiled, not because she was wrong, but because she'd said it out loud. "Is that what you think I'm doing?" "I don't have to think. I have receipts." "I'm not stupid, Agent Bosh. I know what happens to people who cross your agency." "Then why are you still breathing?" He paused. "Because I'm useful. And because you need me more than you want to admit. You're leaking data to unknown actors. That's not useful. That's treason." He raised a hand as if swatting the word away. "Treason's a matter of perspective. Besides, the files weren't just leaked. They were curated, and not by me. What are you saying? He took a step closer. There's a larger list. A full set of black site agents, their covers, their methods. You're chasing a leak, but you've missed the rupture. The list is already on the move. Kishele's jaw tightened. Where? I don't know where, Kane said, but I know who. She waited. Kane's eyes darkened. Langston Ridge. Former NSA analyst. Went rogue 2 years ago. Nobody could touch him. Until now. He reached out to me, not for money, for protection. You gave him that. I gave him a chance to run his mouth. I told him we'd keep talking if he gave me proof. He did. And now, he's off grid. What does he want? Insurance. He's not trying to sell the list. He's trying to use it. Kishele processed. Extortion? No leverage. He knows something's coming. A shift. She didn't like the way he said that word. Like it had already started. I can bring him in, Kane said, but not without help. Kishele raised a brow. You want me to work with you? I want to survive. You think Langston's the worst of it? He's just the crack. The wall behind him is full of termites. People in places you don't want to believe. Senators, directors, judges. People who help build the agency you think you're protecting. Kishele took a breath. This isn't about one leak anymore, is it? No, he said. It's about the dam giving out. She studied him. He wasn't lying, but that didn't mean she trusted him. Give me the last place Langston was seen. Then walk away. You'll never find him alone. I'm not asking, she said. I'm warning. Kane reached into his coat and pulled out a small flash drive, tossed it onto the concrete between them. He was in Briarfield 3 days ago, used a dead drop to move something. I don't know what it was. She picked up the drive. Last chance, Kane. You come after me again, I won't ask questions. He smiled. Neither will I. She turned and walked out, drive in hand, pulse calm, breath steady. Kane's story might be real, or it might be a setup. Either way, Langston Ridge was her next move. And if what Kane said was true, then the war had already begun. The drive to Briarfield was long and quiet, the kind of quiet that makes a person confront the ghosts they keep sealed away. Kishele sat behind the wheel of another borrowed car. This one, a beige Honda Civic so common it might as well have been invisible. The flash drive Kane had given her was slotted into a secured agency tablet on the passenger seat, its files decrypting in real time. Maps, timelines, surveillance stills, and at the center of it all, a name. Langston Ridge. His last known location was a community center on the edge of town, a building that looked too harmless to be a hub for black market intelligence trades. Kishele studied the blueprints as she drove. There were no security cameras, no official staff rosters, no digital footprints. It was a perfect hiding spot, not just for Ridge, but for any number of secrets waiting to detonate. By the time she reached Briarfield, the sky was already turning gold with the coming sunset. She pulled into an alley behind the community center and killed the engine. The building looked abandoned from this angle. Boarded windows, peeling paint, and weeds clawing up through cracked concrete. But as she approached the back entrance, she saw it. A fresh scratch on the lock and a faint electronic whirring from inside. Someone was deftly here. Kishele moved silently, slipping through the back door and into a long hallway that smelled like dust and old insulation. She bypassed the main office and headed straight for the basement stairs. The air grew cooler as she descended, the walls narrowing like a throat. She paused when she heard the voice. I told you it was only a matter of time. Pale calm. The voice had a deliberate rhythm, like he was used to being listened to. She moved closer. Langston Ridge sat at a folding table under a single bare bulb, surrounded by file boxes and a wall covered in news clippings and red string. He didn't look like a threat, Gray hoodie, wire-rimmed glasses, eyes sunken from too many sleepless nights. But Kishele knew better than to trust appearances. Ridge didn't need to look dangerous. What he knew could take down governments. She stepped into the light. He didn't even flinch. "I was wondering when you'd get here," he said, turning toward her with a tired smile. "You're CIA, right? Kishele Bosh?" "You know my name," she replied, keeping her hands visible. "I know a lot of names," he said. "Yours just happens to be one they never expected to see again. You're good at disappearing." "So are you," she said. He chuckled dryly. "Not good enough, clearly." She nodded toward the wall of clippings. "You planning to go public?" "No. If I was, you'd be watching this on every screen in the country already." "Then what do you want?" He looked at her, and for the first time the tiredness in his face lifted to reveal something more complicated. "Grief." "Proof," he said, "that somebody's still out there willing to clean up the mess." "I'm not a janitor." "No," he said. "You're a reminder that not everyone's compromised." Kishele kept her stance loose but ready. "Then hand over the files and come with me. We'll protect you." Ridge raised an eyebrow. "You expect me to believe that?" "You came to Kane." "I came to force his hand," Ridge said, "to see who he'd run to. Turns out it was you. That's why I'm still here. I figured if you showed up instead of a cleanup crew, maybe there was still a shot at doing this right." Kishele stepped closer. "Give me the full list. We'll make sure it's secured." "It's not just names anymore," Ridge said. "It's networks, funding trails, private contractors, shell companies, fake NGO programs. It's too big for one agency." Kishele nodded. "Then we'll bring more than one." Ridge hesitated. "You say that like you trust them." "I don't," she said. "But I trust what happens when they know someone like me is watching." He studied her face, then slowly reached beneath the table and pulled out a hard drive wrapped in a hand towel. "This is everything," he said. "Don't trust the cloud. Don't trust the agency's internal servers. Make your own copy. Triple encrypt it. Keep one offline." She took it. Then, without another word, she reached into her pocket and slid a badge across the table. "Temporary witness protection clearance. Your new name's inside. So's a phone. Press the green button when you're ready to disappear again." Ridge stared at it. "What about you?" he asked. "All the time. I go back." "Do what?" "Do whatever's left." He shook his head. "You know they'll try to bury this." "Let them try," she said. They parted ways in silence. By morning, Ridge was gone. No trace, no signal. Kishele returned to D.C. through unofficial routes. No records, no sightings, just another shadow passing through. She delivered the drive directly to Lawson, eyes locked and voice firm. "No leaks. No digital replication until I verify each node manually." Lawson nodded. "Understood." 3 weeks passed. Arrests were made quietly. Contracts revoked. One senator resigned, citing health issues. A federal contractor in South Carolina was found trying to flee with his family before sunrise. He never made it to the airport. The agency never acknowledged the operation publicly. They never would, but behind closed doors, Kishele's name was spoken with a rare reverence. Not because she was feared, but because she had done the one thing nobody expected. She'd told the truth and survived it. Months later, Kishele stood in a quiet cabin somewhere in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a warm cup of tea in her hands, a soft rain tapping the windows. She wasn't hiding. Not anymore. Her work wasn't over, but for the first time in years, she could breathe. She hadn't just completed the mission. She'd come home